The Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Real Doctor Who fans with real Doctor Who opinions.
Hello and welcome to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. I'm your host, Brett. Ignore the empty child in the corner of the room. Please don't blink more than twice. Silence right now in the library, as this podcast, episode 327, is dedicated to the top 10 best Stephen Moffat written episodes of Doctor Who. Yes, I have compiled my list. The Mary Sue has their list, and I have a top 10 and worst 5/6 episodes of Stephen Moffat written Doctor Who episodes. So that being said, let's delve into this. I was been trying to do a couple other things as I've been getting stuff ready for the podcast. And again, I like lists. This list was recommended by my Google phone, and hence a great idea for this podcast, especially since Stephen Moffat has written a brand new episode recently called Boom, which I have watched, will review eventually. I'll tell you, I am struggling mightily with this new series of Doctor Who. But anyway, that is my dilemma, not yours. So grab your sonic screwdrivers, adjust your bow ties, and let's rank some of these Stephen Moffat episodes. All right, so I'm going to have my list versus the Mary Sue's list. I will give commentary. I actually have no idea what's on the Mary Sue's list. I just saved it, created my own list so that there was no cross-contaminations. I will tell you, I think one of my lists could be considered, I think two of them might be considered controversial and maybe not list-worthy, but this is my list, and I can do with my list as I so choose. So, and if what you, that whole sentence got away from me. So, what would your top 5 or 10 favorite Stephen Moffat written episodes be? Email the show at Alhambra Audio, that is ALHAMBRA Audio, all one word, at gmail.com. Tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. DMs are open. I think I'm massively blocked by so many people because I have on purpose done things, I think, to get blocked by people, in all honesty. And you know what? I own that. Anyway, that being said, please reach out and contact the show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave a comment, but because I do believe we have gotten some comments through there. So, that would be on the YouTube podcasting part because we only have about 3 videos up there. So, yeah. Anyway, that being said, let's get to my list versus the Mary Sue's list. So, starting off, as all lists would be, we're not going to start off in the middle, which would be number 5, because that's just insane, and that's what Star Wars does. I'm going to start off at number 10. My number 10 is Asylum of the Daleks. Now, I went through all of Stephen Moffat's written episodes. I think that for some people, there is probably some higher than this one, but I really appreciated this one as the teaser to the future companion, Clara. You had this, obviously, Asylum. You had some shout-outs to, again, some of my favorite stories, Power of the Daleks. You had Daleks Master Plan. So many other things. The only thing I wish that they would have done is they would have had some of the actual classic-looking Daleks do something instead of just being, Easter eggs in the background. But that is just a complaint of mine. The other complaint that I have of this is the Daleks could easily, because of this episode, easily conquer any planet. All they'd have to do is just release these, converter bugs or whatever that converts everybody into a Dalek. They even did it later on in, I think, series 6 or so. Did not appreciate that whatsoever, because I think it makes the Daleks' constant fight against everybody kind of a little bit more clunky, because it's just like, well, if you have this technology, why don't you do it? I understand that they are not pure, but you could just, convert them, and then they'd be like, hey, you're unpure. off yourself. And then they probably would do that because they are a Dalek and they see themselves as unclean. I guess the only fear of that would be, one of them kind of, decides to have a original thought for themselves and decides not to off themselves. But that is just me. So for number 10, from the Mary Sue, well, let's see. We have, controversy. Silence in the Library. Now, I will tell you, I have this on my list, and because for previous podcasts, Legion has compiled both of them together. I do have this on my list, but I do have this with Force of the Dead because they do work part one, part two. My biggest complaint with some of the lists is, and maybe it was Legion wearing on me for a while and I've given in, or maybe I've just grown up and learned a little bit better. Who knows? Only time will tell. And also honesty. So number 10, they said Silence of the Library was full of shocks. First came the Vaster Nevada, a horrific creature that lives in the shadows to reduce the people to skeleton slumbering in the spacesuit. Then came the revelation of River Song, as played by Alex Kingston. And then someone from the Doctor's past who was very close to him, perhaps even his wife. And what happens next? Well, why is Donna just a face? So, very interesting. Number 10. I think that there is a lot better episodes written by Stephen Moffat. I'll be kind of curious to figure out. Could we say at number 10 that their number 1 is going to be Blink? I think that is going to be. I will be actually surprised if the Mary Sue's is not Blink. I will give you a hint and / teaser. It is not my number 1. So start pondering all of the possibilities of what my number 1 would be. So number 9 for my list is Into the Dalek, which is, again, one of those early episodes featuring... Wait, was this... Sorry, I forgot who was in this one. I forgot that I was pretty sure that this was Clara. Yeah, Clara was. So I like this episode because, again, it brings kind of like the 7th Doctor kind of mentality out of the 12th Doctor, where, you have certain events that were taking place and he knew that people were doomed and he would just use them. He did this on Mummy and the Orient Express. And I found this kind of personality quirk of the Doctor very, 7th Doctor-y, which, again, not the biggest fan of the 7th Doctor, but I did really appreciate this part of that story. And I did think that it was a really fun adventure. Unlike Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, again, not a Stephen Moffat episode, done during his reign as showrunner, but not one of his episodes. Wait, is it? I say that now I'm... Nope, it is not. Okay, good. So, just had to double check. So that's my number 9. Number 9 for the Mary Sue is the 11th Hour. Wow. I strongly disagree with that one. They say that the 11th Hour was the first time since the start of the revival of the new Doctor Who and the new companion had been introduced in the same episode. Moffat did the sensible thing of introducing the companion, Amy Pond, first, and having us see the 11th Doctor through her eyes. Both characters went on to be totally beloved by Doctor Who fans, and the episode laid the groundwork for that. All right. And I really love, I enjoyed the 11th Hour when I first saw it, but when I rewatched it a couple of years later, I found that this is actually the best introduction to a Doctor story out of all of Who, minus the Power of the Daleks. I think that one is the best because, again, Mary Sue does say that this is the first time that, new companion and new Doctor are introduced, where Power of the Daleks, we had Polly and Ben, who were the constant companions and were faced with this odd predicament of this gentleman changing faces right in front of their eyes. and we, as the audience, were Ben and Polly trying to figure out what was going on. So I think with that aspect, I think that I like that, first new Doctor story a lot better, because obviously it was also the first one. It is the first one. But 11th Hour, best new introduction to a Doctor story, and really strong. Disagree with where it is. My number 8 is The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. Now, these, I bet you there's some complaints that these are a little bit too low, that they could have probably been elevated a little bit higher. And I say, this is my list. And even though, the Are You My Mommy is probably one of the more terrifying things, the horrific conversion of people having to basically vomit up a face mask or gas mask is just horrific. You have the introduction of Captain Jack, who has become such a beloved character. It is a shame that we are not allowed to use him in Big Finish audios, and perhaps not being able to have him in the new series of Doctor Who, because a couple people on Twitter will boycott the show. If you want to see people boycotting the show, just see where the viewing figures were for The Woman Who Fell to Earth and where they currently are with the Ncuti Gatwa 15th Doctor. And just know that those people that leave will be insignificant compared to the people that have already left because of the show direction and writing. So, The Mary Sue has the pilot, which is the first introduction of Bill to the 12th Doctor. Now, I thought I came close to putting this on my top 10 list, but the idea, there's certain things about Bill that just irked me. She goes into the TARDIS and she isn't amazed that it is bigger on the inside than the outside. She is more amazed that it looks like a kitchen. And then she claims that she knows sci-fi and all the science fiction stuff or whatever. And maybe, again, the terminology, at least in the comic book world, is fake geek girl. People who claim to have always liked comics and, Star Wars and stuff like that. But it is just certain things to say because they want to make it sound like, they're cool too. And they've always been cool. They've always been a part of this geek culture. Whereas, they just barely discovered it a couple of years ago when, I don't know, maybe I was going to say Rise of Skywalker. No, The Last Jedi, right? I don't even remember what the movie 7 was called. Anyway, the first one with Rey. Anyway, so I think that's an okay story. But yeah, I would disagree. It was on the outskirts of my top 10. My number 7 is the best, at least in my opinion, the best Christmas episode out of all Christmas episodes, minus Voyage of the Damned. Now, I understand RTD did Voyage of the Damned, but this is, again, my list. And I think that the best one, number 7, out of all of Stephen Moffat's episodes, was A Christmas Carol. I think that this one is such a fun, classic story of A Christmas Carol done through Doctor Who, and it is done and acted magnificently. Again, best actual Christmas episode. I don't think you could really count Voyage of the Damned as being a Christmas episode. It takes place around Christmas time, but I don't feel as though you can really classify it as a Christmas episode. However, because of the whole Die Hard is a Christmas movie, because it takes place on Christmas, then I guess you could say that Voyage of the Damned is a Christmas episode through and through. So I will give it that too. The Mary Sue's number 7 is The Empty Child. So similarly to me, I do have I did have this. I have for number. Did I do number 8? Yeah. Did I skip one? The Empty Child. Yeah, I know I did that. The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances. I had those two put together. And yeah. And so they have them individually, which I get too. But the other reason why I did it, not only did Legion say that that's the way that it should be done in podcasts past, but also that's exactly how Wikipedia has them. Not all these episodes go together. So I kind of, followed Legion and also what Wikipedia did. But you know what? Just for Legion's ego, I did it because of him. So just like the drug commercial from the 90s. I learned it from watching you, Dad. Anyway, the Mary Sue says The Empty Child marked the beginning of the Moffat tenure as a beloved Who writer. The Doctor and Rose follow a capsule to Earth and land in the middle of the Blitz. That's dangerous enough, but something else is out there. A child with a gas mask for a face who can turn others into gas mask people just by touching them. And all the child ever says is, "Are you my mummy?" Those words are set to a guarantee shiver down the spine of anyone who watches this episode as a kid. This episode also marked the first appearance of Captain Jack, as played by John Barrowman, Doctor Who's very first pansexual companion. All right. So my number 6 on my top 10 best Stephen Moffat written Doctor Who episodes is Day of the Doctor. And one might say, why number 6? Again, my list. Duh. But no, but this one is the 50th celebration. I think it is fantastic. It did a really good job of introducing, celebrating and giving us a little bit more backstory into the Time War. It gave us the War Doctor, which would have been completely different. I would love to have known if there is a script similar to what they did with the 5 Doctors, right? Or the 3 Doctors. No, the 3 Doctors, with that lost story that they're about ready to release in 2024, which I've already pre-ordered and I'm very excited to listen to find out what it actually was going to be about. Or was it the 5 Doctors? Anyway, one of the Doctors. One of the classic celebratory ones. Anyway, that being said, I'm curious if there is a rough draft of a script that would have had Christopher Eccleston's 9th Doctor in there. And, minus John Hurt. I think that would be really quite interesting to see what that dynamic would have been like. And you know what? Because Stephen Moffat's still with us, because he may have, maybe it's just because, he didn't want to, waste, unnecessary, what do I want to say? What do I want to say? Words. That's what I want to say. He didn't want to expel unnecessary used energy in something that was not going to get picked up at all. So maybe perhaps there was never a script or even a summary synopsis written featuring the 9th Doctor. But but I would like to, if that such thing exists, would love to hear that. Number 6. The Girl in the Fireplace. So for the Mary Sue, and they said, what's the point of time travel if you can't hook up with an interesting historical figure? In The Girl in the Fireplace, the 10th Doctor finds himself taken with the accomplice, Madame de Pompadour. I probably just butchered that. But they can never be together. Time is against them. So here's the interesting thing. So in the most recent episode, and I'm just going to compare and contrast this. So in the most recent episode, we have, Ncuti's 15th Doctor and the Rogue or whatever, starstruck or whatever, make out, whatever have you. You could say there is no, there is no rationale for it. It's never happened before. And, this episode, you could say that the 10th Doctor just is enamored with this girl in the fireplace. But you could also say he not only has a thing for her, but he also has a thing to help make her live, because it's a fight against time. And these clockwork men who are coming to, long story short, they're trying to fix this ship using parts of her body. And yeah, so it's one of those things where I can see how, in one aspect, both, doctors acting towards something that they're fascinated with is very similar. The only difference is I've noticed since the 14th Doctor, when you had the 14th Doctor kind of enamored with Sir Isaac Newton, then with the Dot and Bubble, the 15th Doctor kind of enamored with insert rock star name here, or influencer here. He's very into relationships, or instantly finding a hotness and flirting with them more than any other Doctor. And, we've only been through about 6 or 7 episodes so far to this point in time as I am recording this. So I just wanted to give that just kind of like a little nod right there, because I feel as though at times we can jump down the new series throat. And I will tell you, I'm not having the new series back. In fact, stay tuned for up and coming podcasts when I do review some of these new series stuff, because I am struggling with RTD Part 2. So, but I just wanted to, I don't know, not get the new series back, but just kind of put a clarifying statement in and just notice that it has happened before. It's not a standalone thing. The only difference is the amount of time that we've been exposed to the Doctor from one Doctor to the other. So for my list, number 5, here is controversy number 1 on my top 5 list. That is The Night of the Doctor. And this is basically bringing Paul McGann into everything, setting up the Day of the Doctor. We have given Big Finish the shout out of some companions that, I guess the only thing that you could have said that they didn't was Mary Shelley at the time, which would have been, I think, painting Chris Chibnall in a corner. And I think I would have loved that. Let's go back in time and grab Stephen Moffat and make sure that he basically shouts out Mary Shelley for the Night of the Doctor too, because that would have been great. But again, that gives us the John Hurt War Doctor transition, as well as set up for the Day of the Doctor. So that is my number 5. Again, possible controversy right there. Number 5 for the Mary Sue is the Day of the Doctor. And they say, there was so much writing on Day of the Doctor, seeing how it was the biggest part of Doctor Who 50th celebration. Stephen Moffat delivered. Day of the Doctor brings us together the 11th Doctor, the 10th Doctor, and the War Doctor, with Clara Oswald and a mysterious figure taking the form of Rose Tyler. It was a total crowd pleaser with some unexpected but delightful cameos. All right. So, just to kind of pigeonhole, not pigeon, whatever. Yeah. Oh, wait, no, that was my number 6. Never mind. Number 4 for me is the 2-parter Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. Again, this gives us the Bastards, which I'm very surprised how well Big Finish was able to write them, being a audio medium, but also creating it like, one of the stories that they did was this kind of Jurassic Park type of a situation from Classic Doctor's New Monsters. Fantastic story. Love it. I highly recommend it. I think it's in Classic Doctor's New Monsters, I think 2, possibly, maybe 1. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've listened to that one. But yeah, I strongly recommend that. Vastronauta, again, you have Donna. Donna is just the best companion. And the reason why I find Donna being the best companion in the new series is I have always had a struggle with the Doctor having a thing for the companion, or the Doctor having a thing for anyone in general. Because classic series, the Doctor was just there to figure out and solve a problem, not try to find somebody to smooze and to bed and stuff like that. And I love that they were just companions, and his friend gets near wiped from existence, and her face is on this blank canvas saying that she has been saved. Fantastic story. All right. Number 4. Whoa. Mary Sue, prisoner of the moment munch. Yeah. So number 4 for the Mary Sue. Boom. I think all of these on this list are better than Boom so far, and they have Boom as number 4. All right, let's see. What is the rationale for Boom? It says Stephen Moffat had been absent from Doctor Who for several years before triumphantly returning with Boom in the Ncuti Gatwa era. The plot is simple and also very holy, if you could say. The Doctor steps onto a landmine and he steps off of it, or if he steps off of it, he'll die along with half the planet. But Boom isn't just a high-stakes alien planet adventure. It has some serious points to make about war, capitalism, and organized religion. Yes, capitalism. Hopefully, BBC and Disney Plus make no money off of this because capitalism bad. So, yeah. Boom. Number 4. Okay. That's a thing, I suppose. My number 3 is The 11th Hour. Again, like I said earlier, it is the best introduction to Doctor in the new series, second best out of all of Doctor Who. It is fantastic. Matt Smith is just eating up the screen. Amy Pond is the first time we really have this mysterious girl companion. There's a mystery about her. Now we just can't stop helping it. We have Clara. At least Bill wasn't mysterious. She just, bad place, wrong place at the wrong time, I guess. And then you have, oh man. Well, at least nobody from Jodie's era died. Pretty much. Anyway, yeah. Number 3 for the Mary Sue is Heaven Sent. All right, they say Clara Oswald is dead and the Doctor's trapped inside an incredible prison. He must call on all of his resources and overcome his grief if he stands any chances of getting out. But he has really met his match this time. This episode was nominated for a Hugo Award as well as, and it was well deserved. Heaven Sent is considered one of the very best episodes of Peter Capaldi's era, which was already a strong run. Capaldi is on his own. Capaldi is all on his own here, carrying the whole episode, and Moffat knew how to highlight his talents. And again, that's why I find the Peter Capaldi Doctor era quite sad, is I feel as though even though David Tennant is, to me, the best Doctor in new era, I feel as though had the stories been a little bit stronger for Peter Capaldi, he would have been considered the best modern Doctor Who actor out of all of them. And I just feel as though the writing wasn't there, and especially towards, well, I was going to say towards the end, but I feel as though it was kind of a rough patch for Peter Capaldi, which is maybe why he's not coming back anytime soon, possibly ever. Anyway, number 2 for my list is Blink. Oh, no, here's not where the controversy is. I did say that Blink was not my number 1. Blink is perhaps one of the most atmospheric Dr. Light episodes. Again, previously mentioned on the Dr. Light podcast that I did a couple episodes ago. Fantastic story. Weeping Angel's first appearance, if you're collecting first appearances like comic books or whatnot. Fantastic story. Very atmospheric, very scary, very spooky, and just near perfection. I went to try to as I accidentally was just like finding holes all throughout the Boom episode, I rewatched Blink and tried to find some holes in there. And there are some holes, but I went to try and be like a little bit more nitpicky. And when you really think about it, you can't, like, the nitpicks kind of don't stand, because when you think about who the Weeping Angels are and what their purpose is, it doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. So you can try, but I think Blink is one of those really, really strong episodes. All right. So Blink was my number 2. Mary Sue's number 2 is not Blink. Bet you it's number 1 probably. Their number 2 is Listen. I do not like Listen. Listen, according to them, is a hugely ambitious episode. It delves into the past of the Doctor and takes us right back to his childhood bedroom. It features a monster. No, it does not feature a monster. It features something that I just dislike whatsoever. It goes back to, at least for me, the Doctor and what is it? That artist I can't even think of. Anyway, I do not like that story because Matt Smith comes out, sees the painting from artist's name that I can't think of right now, and he just goes, I know evil when I see it, and that is evil. And then we find out that it is a misunderstood blind giant chicken turkey thing. And yeah, this one, oh my gosh, this is evil. Oh my gosh, this is bringing us back. This is being very fearsome. There's a monster. Oh no, it's actually not a monster. It's just sad that it's looking for its mate. It just can't find its love. I don't like that. And then of course you have, the whole Danny Pink thing, which, I think Danny Pink also was a letdown to the Peter Capaldi era. Anyway, now for, me having Night of the Doctor on my list, that's probably, I did say that was the first controversial thing that I did, but I'll tell you, I think that's the second controversial thing, because here is the first controversial thing that I did. Number 1 on my favorite Stephen Moffat written stories of all time for Doctor Who. And this one could have an asterisk by it, but I'm going to grant me a pass. And that is the Red-Nosed Day Curse of the Fatal Death. When you have Rowan Atkins as the Doctor, and you have this fantastic back and forth between the Doctor and the Master, and all of the oddities that occurred in that episode. You have Hugh Grant as the Doctor too. You have so many things, so many callbacks. This was not only written for comedy, but it was also written as, at least for me, a love letter to the classic show, and done back before the reboot of New Who occurred. Hence, that is why this is the number 1 best Stephen Moffat written story on my list. Curse of the Fatal Death. Fantastic. If you've not seen it, I strongly recommend go look it up on YouTube and watch it. It is fantastic. All right. And now, is the suspense killing you? Because it did not for me. Blink is Mary Sue's number 1. And they say everyone remembers where they were when they first saw Blink. It's arguably the scariest Doctor Who episode ever, featuring a group of benevolent-looking angel statues and suddenly turning into monsters when no one's looking. Those weeping angels became one of the most iconic Doctor Who creations ever, and this episode features a young Carey Mulligan as the main character. This is an absolute masterpiece. All right, well, and they don't have any other thing, so I'm just going to close that because generally Mary Sue is garbage. So here is the timescales, top 10 best ranked Stephen Moffat episodes from 10, and I will give you a hint. There's more than 10, and then I will give you the top 5 lowest rated ones. Actually, there's 6 on there, and just because I wanted to put number 6 on there because I wanted to hate on that a little bit more. So, top 10 as rated by the Timescales fans. Number 10 with a rating of 8.5, released in 2014. It is the Mary Sue's number 2 on the list, Listen. All right. Number 9. This is, there is a tie for number 9. Kind of a 3-way tie, kind of, sort of. You have in alphabetical order, Extremis, which again was part of the Dr. Light episode list from a previous episode, followed by the 2-parter conclusion to Series 5, The Pandorica Opens and Big Bang, with a combined 8.6 rating by people on the timescales. Also tied for number 8 is Day of the Doctor, so the celebratory 50th anniversary, and Curse of the Fatal Death. So, neener. All right, number 7 is with an 8.9 rating is The 11th Hour, again, Series 5 opener. Number 6, The Girl in the Fireplace, with a 9.0 rating. Number 5 has an average rating of these 2 stories of 9.1, Silence in the Library and Force of the Dead. I had to average them out. One of them was 9.3, the other one was 9.2 or 1. So obviously, average to 9.1. Number 4, I was rated by the fans with an average of 9.2. This is 2 stories. I believe one of them was like a 9.5 and the other one was like 9.1 or something like that. Anyway, averages out to 9.2, and this is The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances. Number 3, really interesting. Number 3, as voted by the fans on timescales with a score of 9.3, is Blank. Yes, not number 1. Number 2 on the top 5, as rated by the fans on the timescales. This is a kind of a 3-way tie, 2-way tie. You have the special Night of the Doctor. So that is with a 9.4. And averaging out both of these stories, World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls, with a average score of 9.4. So, wow. And I was trying to figure out if this, according to Wikipedia, this is not a part 1, part 2 thing. And it's been a while since I've rewatched this. And I think as I reflect on it, it's not. So, with an average score of 9.6, as rated by the fans on the timescales, the most popular Stephen Moffat Doctor Who episode is not Boom, but Heaven Sent. So yes, had the landmine gone off and it goes boom, then the Doctor would have been Heaven Sent, and that would have been number 1. There we are. All right. So that is the top 10 asterisk, couple ties or whatever, as rated by the timescales. Now for the lowest 5, but I do have 6 because I wanted to just dump on number 6 for a second. And that is number 6 with a score of 6.9 giggity. You have The Bells of St. John. I did not like this story. I feel as though this was, I think, if memory serves me right, this was one of those real formal, the first time we really get to meet kind of sort of Clara Oswald, ? Dial tone, type of a thing. Not a good story, at least in my opinion. It was just like, hey, you know what? There's a shard in London. Let's, could we use the shard? Sure. Let's do that. All right. Number 5 Now, number 5, I would normally, for years, I have disliked this story. However, because of the Chibnall era, I have really thought a lot more of this episode. And I think that it is a lot better than a lot of the 13th Doctor episodes. And that is with a score of 6.8, The Beast Below. Number 4, and here's the funny thing about this worst 5 list, is you will see a couple things that have certain things in common with one another. Number 4. Number 4, with a score of 6.7, The Return of Dr. Mysterio. Yes, a kind of possibly good Christmas episode that fell flat on its face, not on its brain, on its face, and left doors open for stuff which will never get resolved because, of course, they wouldn't, because it's a Christmas episode. It was light, but it wasn't at the same time. And yeah. Anyway, number 3, this is a 2-part with a 6.6 score. You have the Sarah Jane episode. Yeah, the Sarah Jane Adventures episode, The Caretaker. Yeah, I'm just kidding. But basically, that was like a Sarah Jane Smith episode right there. Just as hokey as it was. Co-written by, what's his face? Stephen Moffat, and who else was it? Somebody else. Anyway, Gareth Roberts. There we are. And also The Wedding of River Song with a 6.6. Number 2, as rated by the fans, the second lowest loved episode. I kind of agree with this one, with a average score of 6.5. Let's Kill Hitler. Yes, that one was not good. That one was almost like, okay, here's the title. Now let's write a story around the title. And this story, fell on its face. But we all have our good days. We have our bad days. And the lowest rated Stephen Moffat written Doctor Who story of, at least currently right now. I was going to say of all time, but just currently, because things are timey-wimey with Doctor Who, and certain things could boom lower, with a score of 5.5. The episode that gave us a shout out to Androzani, The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, is the lowest rated written Stephen Moffat show as written or as voted on by the fans of the timescales. So that is the list. Those are my lists. Those are the Mary Sue's list. What is your list? Please email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. You can tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. DMs are open. And until next time, I will see you in time.
You have been listening to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Doctor Who is owned and trademarked by the BBC. Doctor Who Alhambra is not affiliated with the BBC or Big Finish. No infringement is intended. Visit our website at alhambrapodcast.weebly.com or email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet us at Alhambra Podcast. That is ALHAMBRA Podcast. Thank you.